This is TLC to go.
Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are jumping into something really practical, I think, and important for, well, anyone in education, really, but especially those of you navigating the, let's say, unique landscape of health sciences.
Right.
And this deep dive actually comes from a resource shared by one of you, a listener who is looking for, tangible ways to make their teaching environment even better, more supportive.
That's great. And the resource itself, it's a really solid article from the UTHSC Teaching and Learning Center, the TLC.
Ah, the TLC.
Yeah, it's titled Creating a Welcoming Learning Environment. And it's really designed with health sciences faculty specifically in mind.
Okay, got it. And
Yeah.
the TLC, that's right there for the UTHSC community, a fantastic asset.
Exactly. So our mission today, I guess, is to go beyond just, summarizing this.
Right.
We really want to pull out the key insights, dig into the practical teaching tips it offers, and maybe highlight some further resources it points to.
So it's all about giving you, our health sciences faculty listener, some concrete strategies, things you can actually use to
Yeah.
build learning spaces where students don't just survive, but actually thrive.
Absolutely. And the core idea, the premise the article starts with, it sounds simple, but it's actually quite profound in its impact.
Which is?
That a welcoming classroom climate, it isn't just a nice to have or some kind of secondary concern.
Okay.
It's fundamental. It actively supports student motivation. It helps them focus, which is critical with demanding material. And importantly, it increases their willingness to participate.
You mean like speaking up, asking questions?
Exactly. Admitting they're confused even. And we all know how vital that kind of engagement is when you're teaching the really complex, high-stakes stuff in health sciences.
Yeah, it's absolutely the bedrock, isn't it? If a student feels psychologically safe, genuinely welcomed, they're just far more likely to take those risks, right?
Intellectual risks, emotional risks.
Yeah.
The kind needed to really grapple with tough concepts, practice tricky skills, develop that critical thinking we need in healthcare.
So they shift from just receiving information to actually participating actively.
Precisely. They become active participants.
Okay, so let's spend a bit of time on the why then. Why is putting effort into this kind of environment so important? What does the research cited in the article say?
Well, the article lays out several key benefits, and it backs them up with research. The first big one it highlights is strengthening engagement and motivation.
Okay, engagement and motivation.
Yeah, it points to studies showing this link. Think about it. If a student feels like they belong, like their voice matters, that mistakes aren't, sources of shame, but chances to learn.
They're going to be more invested.
Inherently more motivated. They're not just showing up, they're leaning in. They participate because it feels safe and valuable, not just because they have to.
Right. They might ask that question that everyone else is thinking but is too afraid to ask.
Exactly. Those supposed dumb questions that often unlock understanding for the whole group. And they'll tackle those deeper tasks that require a bit of vulnerability, like analyzing a complex case or debating an ethical issue.
That makes total sense. Feeling judged or invisible,
Yeah.
that's a participation killer, especially when you're still finding your feet in a tough field.
Absolutely. And the article connects this directly to health professions education. It cites specific studies showing that deliberate interventions to improve the learning environment, they have a real tangible impact.
A tangible impact on what specifically?
Well, crucially, reducing burnout,
Right.
which, as you know, is such a huge issue in health professions training and practice.
Huge.
So if the learning environment is stressful, overly competitive, feels unwelcoming, it just piles onto the inherent pressure of the curriculum.
But a supportive environment can act as a buffer.
That's the idea, helping students cope with stress, feel supported through those tough patches.
Wow. Reducing burnout just by focusing on the classroom climate.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty powerful return on investment for faculty effort.
It really is. And it goes further. The article also notes these positive environments support students' identity development,
How so?
helping them see themselves and really grow into their future roles as healthcare professionals. And it also improves collaboration.
Ah, collaboration. Key in healthcare.
Totally. These are team-based fields. So if students learn in a place where they feel safe working together, practice constructive communication, mutual respect, that skill translates directly to their future practice, working in interprofessional teams.
So it's not just about learning facts, it's about shaping the professional, the collaborator.
Precisely. And there's a third big why the article mentions, linking to institutional goals.
It's okay.
When learning environments are welcoming, it actually improves academic persistence. Students are more likely to stick with their programs to succeed when they feel that sense of belonging and support.
Which ties directly into things like retention rates, student success metrics.
Exactly. And ultimately, producing a well-prepared workforce. So it's good for the students, yes, but also good for the program and the institution as a whole. It aligns with those bigger strategic priorities.
Right. Connects the classroom feel to the big picture outcomes.
Yes. And the article is really clear. These environments don't just happen by accident.
They need to be built.
Intentionally, through planning, through establishing routines, even small ones, and through reflecting on what's working. And this intentionality is maybe doubly important in health sciences because the content is so demanding, the pace is often fast.
And learners are constantly in high-pressure situations. Lectures, labs, sims, clinics.
Exactly.
Okay, the why is definitely compelling.
Mhm.
It hits engagement, well-being, professional growth, collaboration, and institutional goals.
Yeah.
Makes it pretty central to good teaching.
Not just an optional extra.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears. Let's talk about the how. What are the practical teaching tips the article offers? This is where, the rubber meets the road for faculty.
Absolutely. And it provides a great actionable list. Tip number 1 is about setting expectations early and revisiting them.
More than just the syllabus policy section.
Yeah, much more. Using the syllabus as a starting point, sure, but also maybe using orientation activities or even working with students to create some classroom agreements together.
Making it more collaborative, a dynamic process.
Right. And the really key insight here, the article stresses this, is sharing what you're doing and why you're doing it.
The why behind the rule.
Exactly. So instead of just saying late work is penalized, maybe explain why timeliness matters in healthcare settings, patient info flow, team reliance, whatever it is, and why the policy helps practice professional responsibility and ensures fairness.
Okay, that transparency builds buy-in, builds trust, rather than just feeling like rules for rules' sake.
Right. Students feel respected.
Makes sense. What's the next strategy?
The next one is about working proactively, using a universal design for learning approach, UDL.
UDL. Heard of it, but break it down in this context.
So the core idea, as the article explains it, is designing your course materials, activities, assessments with flexibility built in right from the start.
Instead of waiting for someone to need an accommodation and then scrambling.
Precisely. It's about anticipating needs. So in practice, it means providing multiple ways for students to, say, access the content.
Like not just readings, but maybe videos, podcasts, models.
Exactly. Different ways in, and also multiple ways for them to engage with it. Maybe that's individual reflection for some, small group discussion for others, hands-on practice, online forums, options.
Offering different paths for learning.
Yes. And importantly, multiple ways for them to show what they've learned, demonstrate their understanding.
So not just the big multiple choice final.
Maybe not only that, could there also be an option for a presentation, a simulation, a case write-up, a project? By building in this flexibility, you inherently lower barriers for a wider range of learners.
People with different learning styles, backgrounds, abilities.
Right. You're signaling that you value different ways of learning and showing understanding. And the article also loops in evaluating your materials for accessibility here, which is basic UDL.
Designing for everyone from the start. I like that shift. Okay, what about getting students talking to each other? Interaction.
That's the next tip. Build opportunities for interaction. The article suggests weaving in specific strategies, things like simple pair and share activities.
Oh, quick, low stakes.
Yeah, or group problem-solving tasks like working through a patient case together, or using structured discussion protocols, maybe in seminars, to make sure everyone gets a chance to speak.
Why the emphasis on structure, though? Can't you just ask the classic question?
You can, but as the article suggests, structured interaction really helps those students who might hesitate in a big group. It gives them a safer space, like a pair or small group, to formulate their thoughts first.
It addresses those threats to learning, like feeling anonymous or fearing judgment.
Exactly, or just not knowing how to jump in. Clear structures make participation less intimidating and help build that sense of community where students actually learn from each other, too.
Safer on-ramps for participation. I like that. And connecting with students more individually. That's got to be in there, too.
It is. The next tip, connect with your students, making that personal connection. The article suggests simple things like using low-stakes icebreakers, maybe anonymous surveys.
Anonymous. How does that help connect?
Well, it lets you gauge comfort levels or maybe find out areas of confusion without putting anyone on the spot.
Right.
Like a quick poll or a digital suggestion box, it shows you're listening.
Okay, I see. What else? Games. Did you say games?
It mentions games or activities, depending on the context, of course. But the principle is creating moments where you see studies as individuals and they see you as approachable.
Right.
And a really powerful practical point the article makes is simply using students' names and getting the pronunciation right.
Oh, that's huge.
It really is. The article even mentions tools like Name Coach that can help faculty learn correct pronunciations. It's a small effort that signals huge respect, helps students feel seen, valued, fundamental to feeling welcomed.
Using names correctly. Such a basic sign of respect. Okay, what else in terms of course design?
The next tip is organize your course to support students. This is about predictability, structure.
How so?
It suggests creating predictable routines. Could be as simple as starting every class with a consistent type of warm-up, maybe a quick review question, or ending with a minute for a key takeaway or a lingering question.
Like a rhythm. That probably helps in a demanding program.
Yes, that consistent rhythm, those reminders, the structure, it provides security. When the content is tough, knowing the what to expect of the course flow can actually reduce cognitive load and anxiety.
Makes sense. Freeing up brain space for the actual learning.
Exactly. And the article also includes incorporating open educational resources, OERs, under this tip.
OERs. How do they fit into a welcoming environment?
By reducing cost barriers. Using free or low-cost materials removes a significant financial hurdle for students.
Ah, this is a very practical way to be more accessible and supportive. Equity.
Absolutely. It's a concrete step towards equity that definitely contributes to a welcoming feel. Accessibility isn't just format, it's cost, too.
Good point. Okay, is there one more tip?
The final one mentioned is model curiosity and approachability. Basically, the instructor's own behavior sets the whole tone.
How you act influences how students feel they can act.
Precisely. When faculty show genuine enthusiasm, when they're open to questions, when they admit they don't know something sometimes, when they're receptive to different ideas, it just creates a more psychologically safe space.
So kind of being a learner alongside them, in a way.
Yeah, exactly that. Modeling that encourages students to feel okay sharing their own developing ideas, asking those clarifying questions, and importantly, taking intellectual risks.
Like suggesting a different diagnosis or questioning a standard procedure.
Right. They're more likely to propose something they aren't 100% sure about if they see their instructor values that exploration process. It fosters that open discourse, that critical thinking vital to health sciences.
Wow, that's a really comprehensive set of tips. Covers structure, materials, interaction, connection, modeling. Very practical.
It is, and the article doesn't stop there. It also lists some resources for digging deeper.
Right. For further exploration, what kind of resources are those?
They point to external guides and research that either inform the article or offer more detail.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, it mentions guides from other well-known teaching centers. There's one from Ohio State University's Teaching and Learning Resource Center on shaping a positive learning environment.
Okay.
And another from Carnegie Mellon's Eberly Center called Classroom Climate, creating a supportive classroom environment. It shows this is a focus area across higher ed.
Good to know there are resources out there. It's a recognized challenge.
Yes, and it also cites a research article very relevant to our audience. It's about providing a psychologically safe learning environment, specifically in the clinical setting.
Ah, the clinical setting. Makes sense. That's often where the pressure is highest.
Absolutely. Published in BMC Medical Education, it really underscores that these principles, feeling safe, welcomed, aren't just for the classroom or lab. They're critical in patient care settings, team settings too.
So those resources offer ways to dive even deeper into these concepts.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the why, we've dug into the how-to with those practical tips, and we've pointed towards where to go for more. Feels like a pretty thorough dive.
I think so. And if there's maybe one main takeaway from unpacking this UTHSC TLC article,
What would it be?
it's that creating a welcoming learning environment isn't, fluffy stuff. It's not just about being nice. It's a research-backed, high-impact teaching strategy. It has real, measurable benefits.
Benefits for the students. Motivation, focus, participation, well-being, and benefits for the program, like professional development, reducing burnout, meeting those success metrics.
Right. And importantly, it feels achievable. It's built intentionally, step by step, using practical techniques, setting expectations clearly, using UDL, fostering interaction, connecting personally, organizing thoughtfully, modeling curiosity.
It's doable.
Yeah.
So for you listening, maybe take a moment now. Think about your own teaching context. Lecture hall, seminar, lab, clinic, wherever you are.
Yeah, which one or two of these tips really resonate right now? Which feels like a manageable first step? Something you could try, even a small adjustment.
Think about where just a little shift in intentionality might make a difference in how welcomed your learners feel.
Mm-hmm. And maybe let's leave you with this final thought to chew on.
Okay.
Beyond just improving grades or skills, how does fostering this genuinely welcoming, psychologically safe space fundamentally shape the kind of healthcare professionals we're sending out there? How does that environment help cultivate empathy, resilience, collaboration, compassion in the people who will eventually be caring for all of us?
It's building not just competence, but character in a really complex system.
A powerful thing to consider.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into creating welcoming learning environments.
And thank you for sharing the resource that let us explore these really important ideas together.
We look forward to you joining us again for future deep dives, exploring other fascinating topics sourced right here from our community.